Okay. When I was trying to think about what I wanted to say today, I realized that most of my impulse to make art and the art that I want to look at comes from a sense of the body and a sense of time. I've had a meditation practice for over 20 years, and the goal of Zen meditation is to bring you to the present moment in the knowledge that the present moment is perfect, no matter what's happening, that the past doesn't exist and the future hasn't happened. So looking at art, making art is a way of coming to the present for me. And I think of that moment with art as a communion. Some of the most profound moments in my life have been looking at art, not only visual art, but dance, music. And you're brought to the present by a really good work of art. And it changes your sense of time. I mean, I think we're all so linear. Time is sped up so much, even within the course of my lifetime, that it's wonderful if you can find a different way of being in time, however briefly. So for paintings, I always think of them as compressed time, that within the painting is the time period that the artist was doing it, but also within that is everything that happened to the artist. These paintings that I'm making at this point in my life reflect a whole lifetime of experience and making art and looking at art. So they're compressed information. And they're sort of like, I always think of them as like messages in a bottle, in the sense that you put a message in the bottle, you throw it in the ocean, and who knows where it will land or when and who will pick it up. And I think a painting can be like that. I remember being in the Metropolitan Museum looking at a Rembrandt self-portrait from his old age, and his eyes were in shadow, and he's this old man looking out at you, and I just had this most distinct feeling that I was talking to Rembrandt, that he was talking to me, that he really, there was a sense of communion there. So when I make a painting, I want there to be communion. I want you to be able to have a dialogue with the painting. And that involves slowing up enough to take it in. So each of these paintings, everything I make is an invitation to alter your sense of time, to stop, and to have a conversation with the painting. And it could be a totally physical conversation, because often that's where these paintings are coming from. They're coming sort of from a gut place. I think it's a truism in Zen as well, in Zen meditation, that this idea of enlightenment is momentary, and there's absolutely no way you could describe it. So I think the really profound moments in life are beyond language, are beyond verbal language. And they're probably beyond any kind of language, actually, but we sort of try to approximate that feeling of the sacred, the opening out through different kinds of language, through music, as Jan, who's a great violinist, could tell you. So painting is a conversation, and even within the painting, there are conversations. Like when I'm making a painting, I'm trying to think how the surfaces and colors and forms talk to each other, and trying to make you sort of say, oh, like I just said to somebody who was saying they like these pink corners on this painting. I said, well, that's my sense of humor. So like it's like, I want you to look at it, get really involved with it, and say, oh, those little pink patches. Wow, that's funny. That's unexpected. So it unfolds. In terms of where the shapes come from, especially in this body of work, they're really a digestion of things that I've looked at for decades. I was telling people earlier that I've always been inspired by older art, anonymous art that was made by people who are not making it to make a name for themselves. So art from most religious traditions would fall under that category. In the Christian tradition, you might have icons or Byzantine mosaics. In the Hindu tradition, you would have sorry, I meant to say in the Buddhist tradition, you might have Tantric images. And then I've also been really influenced by Native American art because of spending summers in Southwest Colorado looking at a lot of tribal art. So the reason I'm interested in that art is that it serves a purpose. And especially in terms of tribal art, it's very related to the body. So I'm coming back to this idea of the body again, in that things that tribal people make are for their use. It's either a protection of the body, and a lot of these make references to shield forms, and in the sense that shields are made to protect a particular human body. They could sort of stand in as personages for me. So this is not figurative painting, but it's sort of a step apart from figurative painting, making a reference to that. It's an anchor point for me. So shields, masks. This one is based on the form of Inuit sunglasses, which are these narrow pieces of wood that the Inuits tie on their heads with narrow slits to keep the sun out of their eyes. That one there is sprung from the looking at a particularly beautiful Navajo blanket, black blanket. The one over there, I didn't think of it when I started, but as I went on, I started thinking of it as a playing card. And the name of that piece is actually called Ace. Because I just feel like, a playing card just tells you something. It just says, this is me, and it's pretty simple, and yet, what is it? It's symbolic, it's emblematic. So it's this idea of being direct, but also being mysterious. That's a quality I want all of my work to have. Like, they're very bold, they're very dramatic. So they insist on their own presence. And yet I hope that as you engage with them, they start to unfold, and they start to move for you, and they start to draw up associations for you. So that borderline between directness and mystery, between beauty and danger, that's kind of a line I keep trying to walk. So finally, just saying the idea of shields and masks, I was already working with those images before the pandemic, and then when the pandemic started, they just seemed especially appropriate. And I also started at that point to work with fluorescent colors because I really felt, the sense of emergency of the state we were all in. And I felt like I needed something even stronger than normal. Any questions?
How hesitant are you when you start a painting?
Oh, I'm not.
You're not at all.
No, I just feel, what's the worst that can happen? I throw it out. Yeah. I think one has more hesitancy at the beginning when you don't have a body of work behind you, and everything is much more precious. I just feel like, well, if it doesn't work, if it's not the way I want it to be, then I've got to throw it out. So, any other questions or comments?
Well, certainly it's lovely work. We know that. So that, yeah.
Wonderful. It's exquisite.